Welcome in. We're going to talk Razorback softball today. They're in a super regional again. They're going to play Duke this weekend at Bogle Park. I want to tell you our podcast brought to you by Eggland's Best. When it comes to your game day, you want the best in your lineup. That includes your eggs. Eggland's Best delivers more of the nutrition you need with 6 times more vitamin D and 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. You can score now with Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for more information. We're also brought to you by Bentonville Glass. They've been serving their community since 1971. They're committed, professional, and versatile. If you're looking for a quality leader in Northwest Arkansas, looking for skilled craftsmanship, look no further than Bentonville Glass for all your glass market needs with the highest quality products. You can come by and see them now at 507 South Main in Bentonville or online at bentonvilleglass.com. Appreciate you being with us wherever you are. Maybe you're listening to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We put our video on YouTube every day, a live video. If you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. We also put it on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Just search Whole Hog Sports on any of those platforms. And we ask you to subscribe. Razorback softball against Duke this weekend. Arkansas won its regional pretty easily. I mean, I don't know if a coach would ever say, yeah, those were easy wins, but I asked Courtney Deifel after Sunday's game, I said, could it have gone any better for you? And she said, I don't think so. They run-rolled all 3 of their opponents, won by 8 runs every game. And they were the only team in the country, Ethan, who run-rolled their opponent every game in the regional. You think that it might have had something to do with the competitive balance that with ranking the 2 seeds and trying to pair them up against, the corresponding 1 seeds, you felt like that had something to do with this, where you didn't have an Oregon coming into your regional, and it seemed different for Oregon. I don't know what seemed different. Maybe the team just seemed more confident and loose and ready to play. But it had a different feel than some of the past regionals they've had here.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that you just go and evaluate what happened this weekend. You played the 4 seed once and you played the 3 seed twice. And I just think they really haven't had that type of luck. I think in their home regional in recent years. First of all, South Florida was a really good 3 seed. I'll give them that. Clearly they showed it by beating Washington twice. And Courtney Deifel said, maybe people will look at this and see 3 run rolls and be like, oh, that was easy. And she wanted to stress, no, nothing's easy. These are all good teams. But they made it look easy. I think that's the biggest takeaway. And that just hasn't been the case, in recent history. And I think that a lot of that has to deal with they've been sent really strong 2 seeds back whenever, things were taking more of a geographic, consideration for who your 2 seed was. Arkansas happened to, oftentimes be one of the most westernmost 1 seeds. So they would get sent teams from the West. And so that would be
where softball's pretty good.
And you get really strong 2 seeds. So I think that you look at it, and maybe the competitive balance had something to do with helping out with Arkansas maybe getting a little bit softer of a field. I'm not saying it was a weak field by any stretch of the imagination. These were good teams, but it was a little bit more of a different field. You didn't have an Arizona or an Oklahoma State or an Oregon like they've had recently. But it was pretty stress-free of a weekend for them.
And they needed it. It's you. I think that whenever you have a stressful regional weekend, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about, baseball, softball, whatever. When you have a stressful regional weekend, I think it has to carry over to the super regional. Bubba Carpenter and I were in here yesterday in the baseball podcast, and the D1 baseball projects Arkansas is going to play at Nebraska this year in the regional. We'll see if that actually happens or not. But we started talking about Nebraska when they came to Fayetteville in 2021. Arkansas was the number 1 overall seed, and that was a tough, hard-fought, knockdown, drag-out fight of a regional. That's one where Charlie Welch hit the home run. And, there was so much emotion in the ballpark. And people will talk about, the stadium had been shut down for most of the year because of COVID regulations. And it was really the first time people got to kind of have that experience in a full stadium. And I think there was something to that. But what I think that really was just kind of letting loose all of these nerves that had existed for an entire weekend of Nebraska, playing Arkansas so hard, and then you look forward to the next week, and they played North Carolina State, and I fully believe that one of the reasons Arkansas had so much trouble with North Carolina State was because they had exerted so much energy and emotion into having beat Nebraska, who was a Big Ten champion. And that goes back to what we were talking about, the competitive balance. You're not going to get a Big Ten champion sent to you now if you're a top 5 or whatever overall seed. But going back to softball, I just feel like it sets them up well, I think, for this weekend against Duke. The fact that Duke had stress. Now you have, for Duke, you're going to add the travel element on top of that. And you got an Arkansas team here who not only did they play the minimum number of games they had to, but they did it in fewer innings than they should have had to because of all the run rules. It just seems like this really sets up well for them this weekend when Duke comes to town.
Yeah, and I brought this up just asking Courtney Deifel about it after they won the regional, about I don't remember a weekend that I've gone to one of their regionals and their ace has thrown 4 innings over the course of it. I'm just used to watching Mary Half or Shanice Dels or Robin even last year. Just by the end of it, you're like, whew, thank God you have them because they helped carry you through a lot of this stuff. Robin, it was she pitched 4 good innings against South Florida on Saturday, but other than that, didn't even have to see her all weekend because you just were handling business. I think that, a lot of times people can look at, the way that softball pitchers can throw, it's not like baseball where you burn your arm out and you can't throw, you can't do it, but it's not ideal. It's never ideal for them to have to throw a whole lot in a weekend. And I think that this sets up really well for Robin, that she got a week rest before this, between Alabama losing at SEC tournament and the regional. And then she only threw 4 innings, and now she gets another week to just get ready for Duke. She's getting very abnormal rest for a softball pitcher. That I'll just be curious to see how fresh she is for Duke. I think that it could be a good matchup for her because they have a lot of lefties. I mean, Duke has a great offense, so I'm saying it's a good matchup for her. I mean, all pitchers against Duke will probably, they got to bring their stuff, but they have a lot of lefties in the lineup, and we all know that, it's hard to hit against lefties whenever you're a lefty hitter, and I don't have her exact splits, but she holds lefties to a really low batting average. It could be, I just could see it being a really big weekend for her.
I suspect there are going to be a lot of people who watch or listen to this who they're trying to maybe just get a little bit more of a feel about Arkansas softball. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a curiosity right now where it's like, hey, I've noticed that they've been doing well. They've been highly ranked, but now I'm going to really lock in and pay attention for these games this weekend because if they win, they're going to go to the World Series. I say that to say I agree with you that Robin Herron is considered their ace. But there's a real argument that can be made that Peyton Burnham is their best pitcher right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look over the past month, Burnham's been, you could make an argument she's been the best pitcher in the SEC over the past, month and a half. And that's not, there's some really good pitchers in the SEC. And so it would be, that's what I'm saying, there's an argument. But just over the past month, she's been lights out, put up a lot of shutouts. She had this streak over a course of 2 series in a row. I think it was maybe Auburn and Mississippi State where she gave up no earned runs over a certain amount of innings. That was just wild. I want to say it was pushing almost 20 innings of no earned runs. But she's and they're just totally different pitchers. She's a righty and she just forces a lot of soft contact, plays to her defense. Robin is a strikeout pitcher. That's the thing for me with this team is they have multiple ways they can beat you. They have different types of pitchers, different types of hitters. And yeah, I think that people would look at this team maybe and be wondering, they don't have, last year Briellis got a lot of attention. She was, National Player of the Year. They don't really have that flashy player this year, but you look at all their numbers and it's all elevated. It's they just have a team that has a bunch of really good players, maybe not the star level that a lot of some of these other teams this far have, but it's just a very complete team that, when the collective comes together and you look at all their averages and all their home run power, and it comes together and it forms a team that's really hard to beat. And I think I'm of the mindset sometimes, those teams that don't have the bona fide star, but they just play really well together. Mm-hmm. They play team ball, and they have production just throughout. Sometimes those are the scariest teams. for opponents because it's really you can't really take a breath. It's like if you trip up against the bottom of Arkansas's lineup, they can have a field day against you, and that's just not the case for a lot of teams. A lot of times, you do look at the numbers, and you say if you get through the top of the lineup, the numbers are in your favor. You just can't do that with this team.
And I thought they showed that on Sunday in in the clinching game against South Florida when there's 2 outs. I think it's down to even a 3-2 pitch, double, walk, home run. I think did they load the bases again after the home run?
They did, yeah.
I mean, and all of this comes with 2 outs. It was like, hey, you feel like you're a pitch away from getting out of this thing, and then all of a sudden, it's 15 minutes later, and you're still standing out there in the circle. It can really wear on you. I think as a pitcher, I think it can wear on you as a defensive player, and then that stress that it puts on you when you're in the field. I think you can feel that when you come up to the plate, too. I really do believe that. You look at Duke right now. Let's talk a little bit about this team. They beat Arizona twice on Sunday to advance out of the Durham Regional. Duke was the number 12, or is the number 12 overall national seed in this year's tournament. They run-ruled Howard in Game 1. They got run-ruled by Arizona in the winner's bracket game. They run-ruled Marshall in an elimination game, and then they got back into the regional championship round, and they beat Arizona twice on Sunday to advance out of it. Duke, you look at their record. Their record is really good. They're 43-15. That's right there, really close to where Arkansas is at 45-11. And 2 numbers stand out to me, Ethan. Number 1, they went 20-4 in the ACC. And we'll talk about the ACC in a second. But the one that really jumps off the page to me is that they were 15-1 in away games this year. Now, part of that, going back to the ACC conversation, is that the ACC really was not that great in softball this year, and it looked like that kind of was proven in the regional round.
Yeah, and that's why this time of year is so difficult when you're comparing stats, because it's like you got to keep in mind your Arkansas's pitching and hitting stats is up against SEC pitching and SEC hitting. Like it's so in the SEC.
Can we say something real quick?
Yeah,
like people can get carried away with SEC. SEC softball is like if you think SEC football is dominant or SEC baseball or like I don't think anything touches the dominance of where SEC softball is. I mean, you've got 3 or 4 of the really, and maybe even more, premier programs in the country when you're talking about Oklahoma and Texas and Alabama, and there's others too, but those 3 come to mind. I mean, and they pulled the rest of the league along with them and says, hey, if you want to be competitive, you gotta be as good as we are. So, like when we talk about how well Arkansas has done against the SEC in softball, it carries a lot of weight because SEC softball is as good as it gets in college.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at right now the active winningest coaches in D1 softball, and like you just look, it's like Patty Gasso, Karen Weekly, Murphy, Tim Walton. Like it's just SEC coaches after SEC coaches. It's like you're competing in a conference with not only some of the best coaches right now, but of all time that are all in the same conference. It just, whenever you say they did this against SEC pitching and hitting, that really means something. And the SEC proved it. I mean, they went 12-0 on opening day of regionals, and then they sent 9 teams to supers. So 9 of the 12 made it out of regional, and that includes
9 of 16.
9 of the 12 that qualified.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
9 of the 16 left, though, are SEC teams.
Yes, correct. 9 of the 16 teams left are SEC, and they had 12 to start, the tournament having a chance, and so you really had some go on the road. You think about Mississippi State went and won the Eugene Regional, and how this just sets up right now, I think, for Arkansas is it's pretty nice. Like you can't look ahead too far ahead past Duke, but if you were to get past Duke, Arkansas kind of got lucky to be in a quadrant that doesn't have other SEC teams. To where if you were to meet another SEC team down the road, it would come in in a very high stakes game, like at the World Series.
How many all SEC super regionals are there? I think Alabama's playing LSU, right?
Yeah, they are. There's Tennessee and Georgia.
Okay.
And then I think everybody else avoid Oklahoma, Mississippi State. So there's 3 of them.
Okay, so there could be 6 SEC teams that get to Oklahoma City theoretically.
Yes. And it's not too wild to say that. I mean, at least 3 will get there.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say that is, we were joking about they should move the SEC tournament to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Well, You just get it about 3 weeks later, potentially.
Yeah, no, literally,
It reminds me a little bit in 2022 up in Omaha at the Men's World Series. There were 4 SEC teams that were there, but then OU and Texas were there too. And it was like 2 years before they were getting ready to join the league.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, this is a preview of what's to come.
And that's why it was funny this year whenever, like, if nothing will, I think, portray how deep the SEC was this year, quite like Arkansas being the 7th seed at the SEC tournament because they played, I mean, the top 3 seeds in this tournament overall are Alabama, Texas, and Oklahoma. Arkansas played road series at all 3. And Arkansas was the 7th seed at the SEC tournament and met Alabama. So the 2 or the 1 overall national seed and the 5 overall national seed met in a quarterfinal game at the SEC tournament.
I mean, put another way, Arkansas was the number 7 seed at the SEC tournament and the number 5 seed in the NCAA tournament.
And it's like, I mean, I wrote a story about this. It's just like the 15-9 that they had in SEC play is like, just look at what that 15-9 took, and it screams, why they were so high. But it's just crazy because I think SEC tournament in softball is maybe harder. I don't want to say it's harder because it's single elimination, and anything can happen in a single elimination format. So I think like an Oklahoma doesn't benefit from a single elimination quite like they do double elimination. But I will say SEC tournament, it's almost like you win that and it feels like the next closest thing to a national championship all year.
Duke did challenge itself in the non-conference. I mean, you look at some of these early weekends they played. They had a weekend down in Clearwater where they beat A&M, they beat LSU, they beat Oklahoma State, lost to Georgia, got run-ruled, lost to Missouri. I think the next week, here they lost to A&M, lost to OU, lost to UCLA, lost to Oregon. They had Tennessee come in, I think, for a midweek later in the season, and they beat Tennessee there in Durham. So they are challenged. They have challenged themselves against some SEC teams. But it seems like pitching maybe the concern with them.
Yeah, and that's what I look at. You mentioned some of those teams that they lost to from the SEC, and a lot of those, what they have in common is really good offense, and Arkansas falls in that same bucket as far as, these two teams averaged the exact same number of runs per game, like to the 7.55 for both of them. The real difference when you compare the stats, which, like I said, you have to remember, like one of them played the number 1 strength of schedule while in the SEC, the other one's in the ACC, and that's not to slight what Duke did. Like you said, they challenged themselves. You definitely can't discredit their offensive numbers. I don't care what league you're competing in. If you're doing that, you're doing something right. But yeah, you look at these numbers and you take into maybe that consideration that Arkansas, who they played, where they played, and you wonder what it would look like in the ACC. But yeah, the big difference is you get down to all the pitching numbers. Arkansas's ERA 2.45, Duke 4.47 ERA. It's opponent batting average. Arkansas holds opponents to 212 batting average, Duke 272. It's just, that's really where you look at these teams, and that's the difference there. So it's basically, in my head, this whole regional boils down to which can Duke pitch better than they have all year.
Winner of this moves through to Oklahoma City to play Nebraska, or who's Nebraska playing?
Oklahoma State. So,
you think that's pretty? We talked about this. You think that's a pretty good regional matchup?
Yeah, I do. I think that Oklahoma State has Ruby Malin, who Arkansas fans would be familiar with. She came here last year, part of the Fayetteville Regional. She's won Big 12 Pitcher of the Year. I think they made her like co-pitcher of the year with Nyjah Kennedy at Texas Tech, and their coach was really mad about it because apparently like they were communicated that she had won it outright, and then they went back and said, actually, we have a co. And he said, I can pull up the coaches, like I know that she got the votes. So there's some drama there. But anyway, that's aside. Ruby Malin's really good. And then Nebraska has Jordy Ball. She got married. And then they also have,
who used to be at
OU.
OU, right?
Yeah, and went home to go play for Nebraska. And And then they also have a lot of former Arkansas players on their team. Lauren and Hannah Kamenzind. I started to say their last names.
Who are from Nebraska originally.
From Nebraska, and so is Casey Hoffman, who was at Arkansas. And there was a whole thing where a lot of girls that grew up in Nebraska went home to go play at Nebraska, and they formed obviously a really good program. But there would be some storylines there.
You know what else I noticed? Let's go back to what I was talking about baseball a second ago, the D1 baseball projections. You realize that if those came true, you would have Nebraska, Arkansas softball in Oklahoma City the day before Arkansas was playing in Nebraska's baseball regional. Kind of an interesting potential crossover there if that were to materialize.
Yeah. It's Nebraska, all this, like, at least for me growing up, I know that I miss a lot of eras of college baseball and softball, but, like, I just never thought of Nebraska as, like, a baseball, softball.
Van Horn got Nebraska baseball going. They were really bad before Dave got there in 1998, and he even had they had a pretty rough first year. It got better in year two, and then it got really good the last 3 years to where they were winning 50-plus games and Big 12 titles, and of course he got them to the World Series.
Is this the best they've been since him?
Well, sort of. So he got them to 2 College World Series. He left there to come here, and Mike Anderson took over for him. Not our
40 minutes
not our Mike
fastest
Anderson.
40 or whatever.
Yeah, not that Mike, but a different Mike Anderson, who's actually at Northern Colorado, who Arkansas played this year. He took over for him. Dave's last signing class at Nebraska. Gosh, I'm forgetting his name. He had a long career with the Kansas City Royals. Alex Gordon. Alex Gordon was in that last signing class. And Alex Gordon helped them get to the World Series as a junior in 2005. So after it would have been Mike Anderson's third year there. And then after that, it started to kind of fall off some. And they had Will Bolt is at Nebraska right now. Will Bolt, who played for Van Horn when he was a player, his nickname was Little DVH because apparently they kind of shared some physical characteristics that were the same, but more so Bolt was just really fiery, and the player said he was just like a little Dave Van Horn. And so, there's some interesting storylines there too with baseball, but that kind of gives you a backstory about baseball. Softball, I mean, you would know better than I would. I don't remember hearing a lot about Nebraska softball until the last couple of years ago when they got the transfer from Oklahoma, and it's amazing in softball, isn't it? I mean, you think about Texas Tech and what they did when they got the pitcher last year. I mean, like you get one pitcher, and it can totally transform your program in softball.
Yeah, and Nebraska has they have a past where they were good. I mean, they made the Women's College World Series a lot in like the 80s. And I believe under the same coach they have now, Rhonda Revelle, she's been there for like 35 years. And so they were really good in the past. And it's kind of like this new class of girls like resurrected the program, if that makes sense. Like it's not like it had completely just dropped off the face of the earth, but they weren't how they were like, in those 80s. And I think they made the World Series early 2000s a couple times. But it would be interesting storylines if Arkansas was to meet them in OKC for sure.
Back to the stupor, to get it to Oklahoma City in the first place. I mean, the elephant in the room this weekend is the fact that Arkansas has been knocking on that door for about 5 or 6 years now, maybe even longer. But I mean, they've been in this position. This is really year 6 where they've had it set up for them to play in a home regional and advanced to a super regional. I don't know if they were guaranteed a home super regional all those years. I don't think they were.
Most of them.
But when they have gotten through, it has been in years where they were a top 8 and they were able to play at home. Didn't get it done against Arizona in 21. Didn't get it done against Texas in 22. That was the year that Texas lost to OU for the national championship, or one of the years, because I think it's happened multiple times. And then last year, Ole Miss. You wake up the day of the game and your top 2 pitchers have food poisoning and can't pitch for you, and that changed potentially, you never know, but potentially changed the outcome of how that super regional went. Like I said earlier, it just feels like, you think about Arizona. I mean, Arizona under Mike
Candrea.
He was longtime coach, won a lot of national champions. Like, that's a program that for years put players in like the USA softball orbit. Like, really, really good program. Texas, we know how good Texas has been. Ole Miss last year, again, I think you got to look at what happened with what happened to Arkansas's pitchers potentially impacting that series. It just feels like this sets up as well for them as they ever have been set up in a super regional. And of course, you have to go back to 2018 when they played their first super regional. That was over at OU, and that's not good for anybody.
I was about to say that's just getting sent to your season's funeral, but most of the time. But yeah, no, I think it sets up really well for them too. And honestly, like you can take even opponent aside. I just think this team is better suited than other ones
They're
I've
old,
covered.
right? I mean,
they're veteran. They have 8 seniors. They have 8 seniors, but they have a junior catcher in Kennedy Miller and a sophomore third baseman Ella McDowell who all started last year. So it's like they have 8 seniors, but they really have even more than that of just experience and been on good teams. And what stands out to me, they are near the top nationally in pitching, hitting, and fielding. Like those are the 3 things. And it's like last year, their pitching really like it was good. Like they held opponents to a low batting average, but like they gave up too many free passes, and that was their problem. And it's like they cut that out this year. They are not walking people like they were. I think on Sunday, there was a little bit of struggle with maybe a few walks, but it was uncharacteristic. It felt like a little bit of just shades of last year, but they cut them out this year. And I say it was just maybe even not even walks, but just counts that they were having to climb from behind. Like I'm just so used to this team this year just attacking pitchers. Like they don't get behind a lot, and that stood out to me. But they have pitchers that can get the job done. They have a great offense. They are good defensively. It's like I don't know another team that's been better situated just for a postseason run in general, regardless of opponent, that I've watched where they just have all 3 facets really strong.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out this weekend because I think like I said, I think they got a pretty good chance. I'm going down to Hoover, getting ready to drive down the Devil's Highway between Little Rock and Memphis here in a few minutes. But I'm heading down there. Like if they're down there for very long, I'm not going to be able to be back for the Super Regional. I'd like to be able to get back and see the Super Regional. And it's not rooting against Arkansas to lose baseball or anything like that. It's just I would like to be there to be able to experience that this weekend. They're going to play at 11 a.m. on Friday. I know there's some people upset about that.
I'm one of them.
But that's just, I mean, hey, when TV owns you, you gotta do what they tell you to do. 4:00 on Saturday, and then to be determined Sunday if they got to play that game.
TV owns you, but they decided to stick you like. I don't understand all the TV logistics that go on behind the scenes, but like 11 a.m. on ESPNU, like. You would think that they'd play you in the morning if they like, oh, this would be good to stick on one like ESPN or ESPN2. And then you look at the ESPNU schedule for the rest of the day.
What's the clientele you think that's on ESPNU at 11 o'clock in the morning? Like a lot of times
it feels
people will be at home and they'll have their TV on. But like I don't feel like anybody's just sitting at home in the morning and hey, look, ESPN. I can't even tell you what the programming is on ESPNU in the morning.
Exactly, and that's my whole thing. And Bart Pullman actually tweeted this yesterday, and I thought it was a good point. He said, "Playing a super regional game at 11 a.m. on a Friday is ridiculous," is what he said. Meanwhile, at 6:30 p.m. on ESPNU, you can catch a viewing of the I Hate Christian Leitner 30 for 30, which came out in 2015 and is available to stream anytime.
Bart's just tightly wound.
Well,
I can say this about Bart. I've known him since we were on in the B wing and Pomfret together.
But if the whole thing is like we need you to play on ESPNU, like I don't know, like at least stick it at an 11 a.m. game just feels really like I don't want to say disrespectful because I think that, but like sticking a team at 11 a.m. on ESPN just feels like this could have been a better situation. Like I get it if you're throwing Arkansas at 11 a.m. on ESPN because that's but
it goes back. You remember there were people that were griping about that all of Arkansas's regional games were streamed, and I said at that point, you got 96 games at least, and up to 112 over 3 days. There's just not enough TV inventory for that. The flip side is that they're putting all of the super regional games on linear networks. Like it's not going to be just a stream-only event for any of these. The flip side to that is, though, it's just like the NCAA tournament in basketball. Sometimes you got to tip off at 11 o'clock in the morning to be able to make that fit in enough windows throughout the day. It's unfortunate, and I get it. I get the frustration, but it's somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, it just is funny that Arkansas 2 years in a row was the one that got sent to the 11 a.m. on a Friday because same thing.
I think baseball had an 11 a.m. on a Friday in a super regional sometime And then they all run together.
If I'm not mistaken, last year, Arkansas was supposed to play at 11 a.m. on a Friday against Ole Miss. I know it got delayed, the start time, or changed. Something makes me think, I think they actually had to bump it up instead of further down because of rain in the forecast. So I think they started that game like in the 10 a.m. hour, which just 2 years. I think the thing is when it's 2 years in a row, you just are like, this kind of stinks. Everybody else is getting to, I say everybody else, Georgia, Tennessee are playing at or maybe.
People aren't going to want to hear this, but
yeah.
That's going to continue to happen until you have that breakthrough and get to Oklahoma City. You get to Oklahoma City and you get eyeballs on you, and you become maybe a more popular team that way. You start getting. I guarantee you, they're not putting OU in the 11 a.m. slot. They're not putting Alabama, Texas, those type of teams in there. There's some. I don't know if meritocracy is the right word, but there's something there where you earn your way into the more prime positions.
I will say Oklahoma is noon both days.
Yeah, there you go.
Which isn't ideal.
It's just not 11, right?
Yeah. Well, Florida, Texas Tech is starting at 10 a.m. Central in game one of their season. That's like the big series, in my opinion. It's Nyjah Kennedy versus at Florida, which Texas Tech took a lot of flack in the offseason because, all of a sudden, all these star players are transferring there, right? Surely there was no sort of tampering or anything there. That would be stunning. But anyway, one of the players who transferred there is from Florida, and so she's going back to her, going back home. Or I say home. I don't know if she's actually originally from Florida, but back to the team she played for a few years in a super. So that'll be interesting. But Arkansas, I think its matchup with Duke, you can argue it's one of the top super regional series. I just think that there's enough storylines there, and the offense should be electric.
You ready for a surprise as we get out of here?
Sure.
Missouri just beat Ole Miss at the SEC baseball tournament.
The
only thing that would make that better is if they won on like an ABS challenge or something.
I saw somebody posted the video of the first ABS challenge. It was way too early in the game.
I think it was the second batter.
And it was upheld that it was a ball, and it was just so anticlimactic. I wanted the first challenge.
Missouri's first challenge did work. So
I wanted the first challenge anybody would do to be just like the most painfully obvious strike ever that an umpire called as a ball. But I'm like, man, you challenged a ball like way too early in the game. I think people are just eager to do it.
I can't wait to get down there and see this and see it on TV today too in the games I'm able to watch. But just like what's the success rate?
Yeah.
And how fast does this go? Because again, this is coming. This is coming to the regular season.
I did feel good today hearing Dave Van Horn, because I mentioned it when I think a few weeks ago, maybe we talked about when they announced this was happening. I said, I wonder how much they call the pro people to figure this out. And Dave Van Horn this morning said that they did.
Yeah.
So I felt good about that.
Yeah, you're validated.
I felt validated. I did. But no, I think it's, from his vantage point, I thought it was interesting that he brought up, for Ryder Helfrich, how
he thinks everything's a strike.
Yeah, he's so good at framing stuff that maybe it could hurt him.
He's the number one. He's got the number one framing rate in the country in terms of stealing strikes.
It's like he's got a good eye to where he could probably give you a heads up when to challenge something, but also it's like
he's got to be the one who does it. It's got to come from the player. It can't come from the bench.
Yeah, and so it's I don't know. There's some give and take that I didn't think about there. As far as if you have a really good framer, maybe it comes back to hurt you.
Hey, these diamond sports, baseball, softball, there's so much strategy that people just do not. They don't understand. There's so much strategy that goes into it. It is every single pitch. There are multiple layers of what kind of counteracting what might happen somewhere else, being prepared for it. It's amazing.
And it's at least in softball, I know hearing pitchers talk about how it is. They intentionally throw balls a lot.
Yeah.
it's like that is you have to.
You got to set somebody up.
You have to set some, and it's that's the thing. You get mad whenever somebody throws a ball, and you're like, maybe this was on purpose to set them up. But there's just a whole lot that goes on there that I think it's always interesting talking to a coach and hearing the real chess match that's going on there each game. And this ABS just adds a whole nother element that I love. I think Dave said he wouldn't be surprised if within the next year or two, this is just
it's all about cost. It's cost prohibitive, and but I think the SEC teams still find the money to make it work. I think it's coming, and it probably next year, but maybe next year, but probably within 2 years. Yeah. I think it's coming. You can read Ethan at our website, wholehogsports.com, all of his softball coverage. He's going to be busy out at Bogle Park this weekend. He does a great job covering Razorback softball for us. I'll be on my way to Hoover for SEC baseball tournament. Got some stories planned for you at our website as well. Listen, Christina Long is going to be in here for me tomorrow to host the podcast. I'll be back Thursday with Bubba Carpenter to talk about Razorback baseball, whatever happens on Wednesday at the SEC tournament. Hopefully they can play Wednesday. The forecast down there looks just downright dreadful tomorrow, but hopefully they're able to get in a game. We'll be able to talk about what happens during that game. Again, hope you'll subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Just search Whole Hog Sports. Hope to see you next time.